Welcome to the Swipe Right Effect podcast, where we will be sharing with you the power to get unstuck by swiping right on yourself. Your host, author C.K. Collins, aka Kelly, gets personal with her guests, sharing stories of themselves getting unstuck with wisdom and guidance. Where do you feel stuck? Are you waiting to get your new life started after a big change? You've come to the right place. So with that said, let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Swipe Right Effect, the power to get unstuck. I am C.K. Collins, also known as Kelly. And today our guest is Gretchen Hydo. And let me introduce you to her a little bit, and then we will get started. Gretchen is a renowned author and a coach in Los Angeles. She shares her brilliant 10-stage secret-breaking system to pull back the curtain, champion women to stop hiding behind their big secrets, step out of shame, and come into the light. Women from around the world fearlessly share their secrets within the pages to free themselves and others from the shackles that bind them. That is so similar to my book, Gretchen. So I'm really excited to talk to you about what it was like to do the book, but then also really just kind of get to that 1, 2, 3 punch. And, but I also interviewed people for my book, The Swipe Right Effect, and they shared their stories about how they got through divorce or how they got through big life changes and loss. And so I love that we have that similarity in storytelling.
Me too. And I really think that it's so important to be able to hear stories from others, because I don't know about you, but for most of my life, I felt like I was so unique, all alone in the way that I thought or felt. And the truth is, it's never true that you're alone. There's so many people that have had similar experiences or something where they felt just like you. And I really wanted to bring that through in my book.
Yeah, well, it definitely comes through. And I am so glad. I want everybody to know that you're also going to be a masterclass teacher with the momentum effect. And we're going to be really in the masterclass that you teach, we're going to be really diving into this business about having dirty little secrets. So tell our audience what you mean by that, by these dirty little secrets.
Well, thank you for asking. So the first thing is, the name of the book is Break Free from Your Dirty Little Secrets, A New You in 10 Secret Breaking Stages. And when I was writing it, I was really trying to think about, well, what is a secret? How do you define a secret? And what makes something a dirty little secret? And the truth is, secrets range in importance, and really it's the importance that the secret keeper gives to it that makes it whatever it is. So something that might feel like benign to me, or like, well, so what? No big deal, could feel like something so shocking for somebody else. So secrets are never the same shape or size for anyone. And part of it, when I was writing this, I really just wanted women to feel like they could finally break free from the shame, the guilt, the ideas they have about who they are in the world because of these things that they've kept hidden.
So one of the things, you have 3 stages on your website, kind of the 3 things I wanted to talk to. The first one, you have break the rules. So tell me about that. How do you want us to break our rules?
Yeah. Okay. So I think then here's the thing. Secret keeping really is a 1, 2. And so here's the deal with the way that works. And then we can get into this other part. When we're keeping secrets, all of them were made, and the ways that they were made are really important. So the first part of a secret is the action that you took. What's that thing that you did that you don't want anybody to know about? Maybe it's the mean thought you had about your neighbor. Maybe you picked lemons off of their tree. Maybe it's something more insidious. Maybe it's the grapes you ate on the way to the checkout stand. Maybe you nicked somebody's car. Maybe it's the abortion. Maybe it's the bankruptcy. Maybe it's lying on your resume, whatever. We've all got a thing. The second part of that is the story now that you tell yourself about who you are in the world because of this secret. And this usually has to do with the rules, and I'll tell you about those in a second. But we start saying things to ourselves like, I'm a fraud. I'm not good enough. If anybody knew, then ... I'm too much. I'm too little. And so this is another form of keeping secrets. And so sometimes the thought comes first, the negative thought about who we are, and then we take an action. And sometimes it's the action that comes first, and then we have a thought. But either way, that's the 1-2 of this. There's something that's happened, and then there's something that we think, and it's the way that we believe we are in the world and where we're inadequate. And it's the most damaging part of this whole secret keeping business. And then the third part is the childhood conditioning. And this is where we get into the rules. It's those things that we believed growing up that maybe aren't true. So I was talking to my mom the other night, and she said to me, there's a lot of things happening in our family right now. And she said to me, well, you know how we are. Think it through instead of feel it through. And that's a rule in our house. We think it through. We think it through, and we think and we think and we think, but the thinking actually can become problematic, and we're thinking instead of feeling. But somewhere along the line, this rule showed up, probably from her parents or her parents' parents, that it's safer to think instead of to feel. And there are hundreds of these kinds of rules that we all have. They're very individual, but we have a lot of rules that have been created. They come from society, our well-meaning caregivers, educational and religious institutions, and just from being out there in the world. And that's part of what frames that second part of the secret about what we think about ourselves and how we're supposed to behave.
Wow. Yeah, I can definitely think of some of those rules from my
family.
You
want to share any?
Well, I mean, there is a little bit of the, thinking without feeling, but it's almost, I always say we love out loud. But what that also means is we don't always contain our emotions, and there's outbursts. And so it's almost like they're kind of in a defense mode all the time. If there's something, like you just said, something going on in the family, there can be a lot of emotional outbursts. So I guess my childhood rule was I gotta protect myself. Something's coming. Oh, look at that. Time to get in protection mode.
And because of that protection mode, it's really interesting then what happens. And thanks for sharing that with your audience too, is that we cope, we make up these coping mechanisms, and usually they have something to do with the rule. And as we're doing that, we create secrets around them. So you protect, but all of the things that you do to protect yourself, some of them probably come out as secrets, things that you don't want people to know about what you're thinking about yourself, them, others, and then actions that we take.
Right. Oh, that totally makes sense. Yeah. And I think I'm from the South. And so I was born in Arkansas, but grew up in Tennessee. And there's so many rules about being a young woman, whether it's young woman in the South or just a young proper woman in society. And I think that really makes people that I know that are in my life really hide under some secrets under a shell, just from that conditioning as well.
And I'll tell you this. So another one of the secrets, and this one was one of mine, is my grandmother, when she's the one that gave me the birds and the bees talk. And she said to me, sex is for procreation, not recreation. So that was like a rule, but I found myself that I didn't actually follow that rule. Not that I did a lot of that outside of what you're supposed to be doing or not supposed to be. There's just more rules there. But I can remember it made me a secret keeper. I didn't want her to know because I valued who she was in my life. And so then I thought, well, I am doing this, but I'm not supposed to. And I was breaking my own rules that were given to me. So then there's a secret, and then I'm thinking I'm not good enough. But that's the way that secrets are. And so we're looking at the 1, 2, 3 right there. Childhood conditioning. You get a rule, then you think something different than that childhood conditioning. Oh my gosh, I'm bad. They're not going to love me. And then we're doing it anyway. And it becomes a secret because we don't want them to know.
Yeah.
We're outside them. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we break out of that pattern?
Ooh, that's the thing, right? How do we break out of the pattern? And that's what the 10 stages in my book are really all about. So the first part is really noticing and taking a deep look at what is that one secret, either in thought or in action, that you really don't want anyone to know. And it's the easiest when we can grab one, that it's like, oh, well, I've got this one, and that's the one I'm going to take through. And what happens is the more we look at it for what it is, that it came to us and became a secret because of these rules that we were given in childhood. and we take a look at why we became that way, it always has to do with the ways that we received our like, value, and love. And so in my family, I was the good girl, but if I'm breaking this rule, am I still the good girl? Will you still like me, value me, and love me? So no, I have this secret because I want to keep my place. You have to look at all of these different pieces, and those 10 stages have a stop mark at each one where it's like, we do a little bit of work, we stop, we look at your patterns, we stop, we look at where you've used this to cope, we stop. And then we look at how you're doing adjacent living. Not really the life that's meant for you, but it's close because of these secrets, rules, childhood conditioning, and ideas that we have about ourselves. And then by the end of it, the thing is this, by the end of it, we're really looking at our purpose, and we can't get there unless we've decided to take a good look at this 1, 2, 3.
So when you're shed the secrets, is that about forgiving yourself? Is that about changing how the rules work in your head? How do you shed a secret?
So good. It's all of those things. So the first part is, it's about telling yourself first that you believe these things or that you did these things. It's interesting how many ideas we keep to ourselves, that we don't, I don't introduce myself. Hi, my name is Gretchen. And sometimes I think I'm really aggressive. That's not the way that I introduce myself. That would be weird, right? But really taking a look at those. And so it's a matter of looking at what were the rules that supported that. What's the identity then that you have created for yourself around whatever that label is, aggressive, that you've given to yourself, and then all the secrets you've created because of it. And so this first part of shedding is just the accepting it, really looking at it in an organized way, but not in a way to beat yourself up. We do enough of that. We don't need to create secrets as we're trying to get rid of our secrets.
Right.
Then forgiving yourself, really forgiving yourself for the things that you've done to you and maybe to others. And then there's a part in there where I really take people through, and who do you reveal it to so that it's no longer a secret? Who can you share this with so that you're not keeping it on the inside anymore? Because once we speak it, I just shared this part, sometimes I think I'm too aggressive. Once we speak it, it loses a lot of its power. It loses a lot of its power. So we do that in the middle of the secret breaking system so that the forgiveness is there and the new foundation of what the rules we want to subscribe to and the labels that we want to take on for who we are so that we can become this bigger version of who we're meant to be. I really like to call it an unbecoming of everything that you're really not.
Wow. So when someone is shedding the secret, and maybe it's like so big, it's life altering, and or maybe not safe to share it because of whatever the situation is. Do you think, or do you ever recommend to someone, like, if you, here we have this series to go to therapy or to, yeah.
The truth is this, all of the secrets are big, even the one I ate the grapes in line before paying for them. And the reason they're all big is because of what we take on in our identity about who we are. I'm a thief, I'm sneaky, I don't know, whatever someone who does that might think. That's the part we have to reveal. And if there's always a safe person in our life, and I really go through who to share it with and who not to share it with. So if you had an affair, don't tell your husband's sister. That's not the person you reveal. That causes more problem and then more secret.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I really go through, how do you choose who's safe? Who do you choose who to tell it to? Sometimes it is a therapist or a coach or a trusted servant in some way. A lot of people will use a religious leader to, a priest or someone like that, or their pastor, but tell the secret. Don't keep it inside anymore. And the power in the telling is where then that true forgiveness of that was the old me and who I was when I did it, didn't know any better. It was perfect for the system that I had created. There wasn't another choice to make in my mind, in my thinking. You really can forgive yourself, and then you don't have to keep creating those kinds of secrets.
Yeah. I know I tell in my book about how I've had that moment where I had forgiven, my ex-husband, and I practice. I had to practice. I had to say every day, multiple times a day, sometimes I forgive you, I release you, I want you to be happy. And even after I got to that point where I meant it and I said it to him, and it was a big, big deal, I still had this, I don't know, not anger, but just this underlying frustration. And I couldn't really figure out like what's going on. And I realized I needed to forgive myself, that I had put up with, the living in a house with someone who didn't love me, and really believing the lies that were told to me, and not understanding my tuition was correct. And it was there. I tell as many people as I can, because it was so powerful to forgive myself. It was absolutely the biggest thing I did. And I remember when I wrote about it, I think I sat there and cried for 3 hours. And when somebody's lived with something like that for so long, like a childhood trauma, or the childhood, I had sex when I was 16 and I'm a bad person because I didn't, the rules that really just made you feel less than, even though you're really a brilliant and beautiful person. Forgiving yourself is difficult, but so important.
And, I'm so glad that you were able to do that. And through your book too, to have that big release, because it's as we're coming to terms with these rules too, that we really get to think about it. The people who gave them to us, they didn't mean anything bad when they gave them to us. They really thought that they were protecting us in some way, but they're just not the right coping mechanisms for who we truly are. And most of the rules are, if you think about like generational trauma or generational rules, they're passed down just a little bit at a time. And then by the time it comes to us, it's like, wait a minute, this has nothing to do. I don't have to live like my great, great, great grandparents from Hungary who were escaping from this and that. Why am I still under these rules? But no one takes the time to question it. And that's why it's important to slow down and do this deeper work of questioning your rules, questioning those places where then you feel like you're not good enough because you did X, Y, and Z, questioning why you stayed with your ex-husband or even attracted him in the first place. And it's like, of course you did. There was no other person you were going to attract. It was perfect for everything that was cemented into who you are.
Wow. Yeah, it's true. I think that, and I also think that, that's who I was then, and this is who I am now. And I have a lot of conversations with women who are divorced, especially after betrayal, because after they read my book, they want to talk, right? And I find that you just become such a different person over time. And I think it's a really beautiful thing if you don't carry forward those secrets, that if you can also shed, like you said, shed the secrets when you're already going through such a monumental change. Like, all right, I'm seeking who this new person is. And now I know I have this trusted place I can go with any other secrets I might have. I think that's a really beautiful part of your process too, is you're identifying that safe place. And a lot of people don't realize they have that in their lives until, either push comes to shove or a coach explains to them that if they just open their eyes, there is somebody there who cares and loves about them enough, loves them enough to do this for them. Or so I think when you shed the secrets, the next thing on that you have on there is change your life.
Yes, we change our life. And the way that I like to think about this part is a lot of people talk about finding themselves, and it's not like we're a crumpled up $5 bill left in like last year's winter coat pocket. We were always there, but those ideas got in the way. And so as we're changing our life, what I'm really looking for people to do is to go back to who they always have been before the secrets, before those thoughts, before those ideas not good enough, before the 7 generations of trauma were given down to, like, before, when we just came out perfect beings before, and so the changing our life is almost like a remembering back to who we were supposed to be, and then being brave enough to live in this way because we've done this other work. A lot of times with women's empowerment, I find things where people are trying to find their purpose first or those sorts of things. And it's not that it's wrong, but we get stuck in our old generic and over rehearsed thinking because like, oh, I can't do that because no, whack-a-mole, all these reasons, all these ideas. But if you flip it and you do that deeper work first, then there's so much more room for your real essence to show up.
Mm. How much do you find that limiting beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, are a part of people's secrets?
Huge. I mean, again, like I said, if I met you and said, hi, I'm Gretchen, and sometimes I think I'm too aggressive, like no one and there's a limiting belief. So if I think I'm too aggressive from this one time back when I was 20 at the workplace with something that happened, and I'm now almost 50 and I'm still carrying that around, think of all the different places in my life, in your life, that because of a limiting belief, you didn't do the bigger thing, because you're carrying the story around. And what I call this is the label work. And then those limiting beliefs, they always put us in a box. So any label that you give to yourself, whether it is aggressive or doormat, overweight, too skinny, too old, too young, too whatever, procrastinator, badass, drill sergeant, whatever it might be, we're living up to it all of the time. But that's part of the secrets, because all of them, no matter how they sound, limit us from being who we really are without a label. What about the part where we're just love and we're peaceful and we're okay and we have more than enough and we intuitively know what to do? We forget that because of the other labels that are there.
Yeah, I do see with the women that end up coming to me because of the book that it's a common thread that they have at one point lost faith in their intuition.
Yes.
And the rebuilding of that. And that was the case of me, because I had gaslighting. And so you've got people who've been gaslighted. You have people who are, potentially have lived or been raised by a narcissist. There's all these different, or even I've had a boss who was basically constantly telling me that my instincts weren't good. And I ended up replacing her, by the way. But yeah, I think that's really common in women, that they stop trusting themselves.
And it's unfortunate. And that's why I think this work that the both of us are doing is just so important, because it is an unraveling of everything that isn't true. We do know what to do. Women's intuition is a gift, and we all have it. And it's where you're supposed to listen to your deepest yearning, but we've divorced ourselves from it and you can fill in the blank of whatever the because is, but it always has to do with a limiting belief about who we are and why we can't. Oh no, I can't listen to that because, I didn't listen to my intuition once and ended up engaged to a guy that I didn't marry because, and so there it is. We all have those kinds of stories.
Right. Do you have a story from your book that you would want to share with the listeners?
Sure. A secret? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, or just the rebound and the recovery from the secret, I guess. Yeah.
Sure. So secrets aren't quick. And so here's the thing. One of my secrets that I share in the book is that growing up, I had a lot of ideas about who I was in the world. And one of them was that I wasn't good enough. Now, I didn't know that I was walking around with this framework, but there were many circumstances that made me feel this way. And I really just believed it. I didn't want people to know the truth about me or my family or the things that happened or the alcoholism that was in our home or the drug addiction or and all the exciting Jack in the Box characters that pop up because of it.
Yeah.
So I found myself newly married and I had a broken leg. My husband and I went to a church at the time, and we were part of a young married Bible study. Now, I already felt not good enough. I already felt like I didn't belong. I wasn't actually sure how I felt about church either, but here we were. He went upstairs to go say hello to our friends. I couldn't really make it up there because of the broken leg. I probably could have. I just didn't figure it out or didn't even think it was an option at the time. And what happened to me in that moment was I felt unchosen. I felt unseen. I felt not good enough. I felt like a fraud. I felt like if these people at this very rich church found out where I was really from and the things that I had grown up with, that even though I'm in my expensive dress, that, it wouldn't matter. And I got triggered onto this tripwire feeling of just not being good enough. And I felt really abandoned by my husband going upstairs. Now, the amount of time that I've taken to tell you this is shorter than the amount of time it took to feel it. He went upstairs, I felt it. There it is. Then I'm in panic. I'm in like a triggered response. He comes back downstairs and I really flipped out. I tried to hit him with my crutch. Suddenly it was if I had no broken leg, I could chase him. So that was interesting.
Oh,
I could
man.
chase him through this church. And what's playing in the background is this: I'm not good enough, I'm abandoned, I'm not chosen. So then I act like a crazy person to make sure those things can stay true. And we
Mm.
found ourselves in a physical altercation, not with him, with me, but me with him. And that was a big secret, because then I had the idea of, well, and we're still married, thank God. But, I had this idea that I'm violent, that I'm scary, that I'm too much, that my feelings don't matter. And from there, what happens to get to the other side of it is I did the work. I found someone to talk to about it. I found a group of people that really had some like-minded thinking as me. I found some people who'd been through some things where I could say the real truth instead of trying to skirt around it. And they said, yeah, I get that. And here's what you do. And I didn't feel shame anymore. And from there, what I realized is the less shame I felt, the less story I carried about who I was in my head, the more open I was to who I was always supposed to be. I've wanted to write that book since I was 7 years old.
Wow.
7 years old. But who am I to write that kind of book when I'm acting crazy in a church and trying to have some kind of domestic violence in front of 1,000 people? Who am I? But the truth is, in that unbecoming of everything that I was never supposed to be, I really got to get back in touch with my essence and my intuition. And she knew what to do. And she had never abandoned me. She had always chosen me. She had always thought I was good enough. I just forgot.
Yeah. Yeah. You forgot her. Yeah. I love that. I guess we all have that she or that her inside of us, and we've just got to find her again. Yeah. I feel like I went through that process after divorce. I went and hiked the Camino de Santiago. It's a 500-mile hike in Spain. And I think there's the her from the past and the she that went forward. And I talk about that's the old Kelly and the new Kelly. And I found her on the trail. And and then when I retired, I took a year off and I got to know her. That's how I talk about it, is because there is a before and after that aha moment. And I know aha moment's used a lot, but it's a breakthrough. It's a thing that you feel to your very soul, the she and the her, the before and after.
It really is, and I call that really your false self versus your real self, your true self. That's just your false self, old version. It's not who you were when you came out, but quickly we become that. And it's just this false self that was doing what she could so that she could cope in the world with all of the different inputs that were given to her about how she was supposed to behave, what she was supposed to like, how she was going to make it in the world and be liked, loved, and valued. And so it's just all of these old things that she picked up, but she didn't mean to. She would have picked something better if she knew that she could.
Yeah. Wow. So, I'm assuming all of these things we will be talking about in the masterclass.
Yes.
And I know you offer master classes, you offer coaching, you do a lot of different things. Can you tell people kind of your repertoire?
And I'm very much looking forward to the masterclass. In the masterclass, we're going to go over some of these rules. I'm going to have the participants, and you're creating something so delicious and wonderful for people. We're going to take a look at the labels. We're going to rewrite some of the rules. We're going to see how they got there in the first place so that the people that you're serving, that will be co-serving together, can really leave changed, and that's the basis for all of the work that I do. I work with everyone from corporations to individuals, but at the core of all of it is this part where we're going to take a look at who you're being in the world. We're going to take a look at what you believe about yourself in the world. And then we're going to take a look at how do you get back to you in the world. And it doesn't matter who I'm working with in whatever capacity, whether it's my BOLD program, which is all about this kind of work that I'm talking about, or individual coaching. At the essence, that's the work. That's what we do.
Yeah. And I know your website is gretchenhydo.com.
Yes.
And is that similar for that on all the social media?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I have one more question for you. And I asked this question, the last question to all my guests. And that is, Gretchen, what feeds your soul?
I love this question. And many things sprang to mind. God feeds my soul. Writing feeds my soul. Hiking and nature feed my soul. Trees, the big sequoia trees. I love to get my arms around those suckers. You can often find me in the park petting a tree. I'm like the weird one doing that. My family all calls me tree hugger. And my
A
family,
literal tree hugger.
like literal tree hugger. They have so much good energy that just emits from them. I think I really am a tree. And my kids and my husband really feed my soul. And my little black kitty, Sylvia. She's just great. She's the only other woman in the house. She seems to know how to help and is usually trying to give me a hand in some sort of way, which is hilarious. It's my soul.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, looking forward to working with you and, like you said, co-working, I guess. And thank you for being on today. And we'll definitely put a link to your socials and your website in the podcast description. But thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Kelly's book is available on Amazon and through your local bookstores. Look for the Swipe Right Effect, the power to get unstuck. Kelly's interviews with 10 friends from around the world unlock powerful truths to getting your new life started.